And for a little more on the earthquake, our science correspondent Bob McDonald joins us tonight from Victoria. Bob, why is Nepal so vulnerable?
Well, Peter, Kathmandu happens to be right at the collision point of two continents, India and Asia. And I have a couple of graphics here that will show you what I mean. The continent of India, 40 million years ago, basically raced up from South Africa across the Indian Ocean and slammed into the Eurasian continent. And when it did, it went underneath it and it lifted the Himalayan mountains up. That's why they're there. And this tremendous collision, I think of the Himalayas as the crumpled fender of those two continents. And the pressure's still on today. India's still moving north about 30 millimeters a year, and that's causing these quakes. And there have been 4 major quakes in Nepal in the last century. So unfortunately, this is a pattern that's going to continue.
Well, if there have been 4 in the last century, why is this one causing so much devastation?
Well, a couple of things about this one, Peter. It was very close to the surface. There was a lot of ground motion. The ground moved back and forth about a meter, and it lasted a long time, 30 seconds to a minute. And I can show you what that does to a building. I have a makeshift building here, just these blocks that I'm just standing on top of one another. They're not attached. All buildings have what's called a natural frequency, and that is the frequency that the building would vibrate on its own if it could. If there's just a little bit of shaking, it can take that. But if you have a long quake, it goes on again, it'll tap into that frequency, and it won't take much here for me to just get these things moving, and if I keep going at it, eventually they'll collapse. And that's what happened to the buildings in Nepal. They're made of brick, and they're not reinforced. Here in North America, we have building codes, so that buildings have to be strong to withstand it, or if they're really tall, to be flexible, so they can bend like wheat in the wind. But it costs extra money to do that, and in the part of the world where Afghanistan, Nepal, that part of the world, they can't afford to do that, so it's the buildings that kill the people and make this such a big tragedy.
All right, Bob, thanks very much. Our science correspondent Bob McDonald in Victoria tonight.